Hello everybody and welcome to another video. So, diving into the Horus Heresy, doing Horus Heresy content, we're going to kick off with looking at how to create an army for the Horus Heresy, having a little chat about it, and kind of sort of explaining how it works, because apparently it's quite confusing. But anyway, let's jump in. If you are new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. We are getting very close to that 5,000 subscriber mark, and it's really exciting, and a lot of cool information coming from that very shortly. And yeah, make sure you like, share, and all that good stuff. But anyway, let's jump into the video. Okay, so the Horus Heresy. 3rd edition is here. It's well underway now, and yeah, it's slowly starting to build up, and it's kind of in a really cool position. Now, I have played the Horus Heresy for a long time. I played a lot in 1st edition. In fact, 1st edition stopped me from playing normal 40k. I just played the Horus Heresy completely and had a really good old time playing it. Loved the game. 2nd edition was good. I know a lot of people are either sort of on the fence with 2nd edition. They either think it was a really good edition or they didn't like it. I myself quite enjoyed it. Yes. Was it perfect? No. Did it have issues? 100%. But was it fun? Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that I liked about 2nd edition was it had a lot of the elements from 1st edition, but then it added the reactions and the sort of other sort of little nuances like brutal and stuff like that. Although brutal was a problem, so was Contempt of Dreadnoughts. But yeah, there was things there. Now, 3rd edition itself is a entirely new game system. No matter how much Games Workshop have tell you that 3rd edition is basically 2nd edition with a few tweaks, it really isn't. The entire 3rd edition is a new game. There are massive changes, and one of the biggest changes that the game has is how you build your army. So if you are coming from 2nd edition or 1st edition and getting into the Horus Heresy for the first time, one of the things that you'll hit me with straight away is the fact that Rites of War have been removed. No more Rites of War. Primarchs rolling around in a 2,000 point army is also no more of a thing. They can only be taken in armies of 3,000 points or more. So kind of, if you want to bring the big hitters like the Primarchs, you're kind of going to have to start playing larger games. But rather than having 500 points like you used to be able to bring them into the game, you now have 750 points to play, which is cool. Obviously, Horus Ascended is still 1,000 points. So yeah, big things there. Now, one of the things I want to be doing on the channel is I want to be starting delving into 3rd edition in a big way, doing sort of faction breakdowns, faction deep dives for all of the 18 legions, as well as the Solar Auxiliary and the Talons of the Emperor as those books come out. And next year, 2026, is going to be my Horus Heresy year, where I jump back into it in a big way and start building up my legion and getting games in and talking about it here on the channel. I'm a massive fan of the Horus Heresy and have been since that very first book came out it's like nearly 20 years ago. And when I read that first sentence of Horus Rising, I was there the day Horus slew the Emperor, and that for me, once I read that sentence, had me hooked. That was it. I was invested. So yeah, great times. We're going to be talking about the Heresy as a whole, the books, the whole Civil War, and lots of cool content. But for this video, we're going to be looking at how to build an army, and there are some massive fundamental changes. So let's change the thing and get it up. So first things first, one of the things that you're going to notice about your army is that you are now using the primary detachment. The primary detachment is going to be your go-to detachment that you build your army from. Like I said, there is some major changes in this. Now, what's basically spurred this video on was the other week I was in my club and I was playing a game of 40k against my mate who was using his Tyranids. I was using my Space Wolves. We were only playing 1,000 points. And one of the things that really stood out to me was that there was a couple of guys new to Horus Heresy with one of the sort of newer players, but kind of got into the game at sort of the back end of 2nd edition. And he was there with his army explaining how army construction works. Now, this conversation lasted about 30 to 45 minutes. Talking about how armies are created and how it works and everything else. And this kind of got me thinking. When I looked at other content creators as well, I noticed that a lot of channels have got massive long videos on how to do this. And I figured, like, is it really as bad as it is? So I got my rulebook and I had a read. And I remember when they first announced 3rd edition, one of the biggest things that really sort of put me off straight away of the edition initially was army construction. I'm a big fan of the old force organization chart, but I kind of see what they're doing, and this kind of is very reminiscent of Age of Sigmar. You have hero taxes in Age of Sigmar for your regiments, and this is kind of the same thing that we have here in Horus Heresy. I was hoping a little bit more for how 40k works, where you can't take more of 3 of a unit. Battle line units are pretty much, you can take as many as you want, and all of that kind of stuff. But no, there is certain stuff. So your main army is going to be built with what is known as a Crusade primary detachment. Now, when you look at this, you're going to look at this and go, wow, what is this? This is like, there's lots of pictures here. Now, basically, it's very simple. Your high command and your command elements, so basically the helmets with the crests on the top, they're basically now your HQ choices, and they're essentially split into 2 camps. The high command is basically for your praetors and equivalent leaders. So praetors, characters that are essentially a praetor level, so like a Baden and Ralderon and people like that. Your commanders are basically centurions, and that includes all of the different centurion variations that you have in the game. So you can have your master of signals, your company champions, your librarians, all of the different sort of makeup of your consuls is basically where they are. Now, the next one is your troops, exactly what it says on the tin. This is your tactical squads, your despoiler squads, your breachers, your assault marines. That's all of what this is. And then, surprise, surprise, underneath that, the little rhino, that's your transport options. So basically, everything that you're going to build in your army will come from this detachment. And certain things that you pick in this detachment will unlock other detachments. And essentially, you have apex detachments and you have auxiliary detachments. Now, your apex detachment, which is what this is right here, is basically comes from your high command. So when you take a praetor and you fill that high command slot, you have the option of bringing in an apex detachment. Now, basically, an apex detachment is either a combat retinue, an officer cadre, or an army vanguard. Okay, now pretty simple. Your combat retinues are basically your command squads and things like that. Your bodyguard squads. Your officer cadre is additional consuls, and then your army vanguard are basically elite infantry units or elite units, so veteran units, stuff like that. Now, your apex detachments, your auxiliary detachments, is basically the meat of your army. This is where your chungus comes into it, your really, really good stuff. And these are unlocked either by your high command or by your command options. So basically, those top 4 will be able to each bring one of these. Now, your auxiliary attachment is either your armored fist, your tactical support, your armored support, your heavy support, your combat pioneers, your shock assault, and your first strike. Now, each one of these obviously corresponds to a different unit type. So as an armored assault, you'll notice it is a tank. So that's 1 tank per slot. Now, it doesn't matter what kind of tank. It can be a Predator, a Whirlwind, a Vindicator, Karen. That's basically what it is. And then when you look at your unit entries in your army list, it will tell you what slot that fills in. So it will say if it's armored or if it will be a heavy support, stuff like that. So they're all there. Now, one of the things that you will note straight away is that there are no squadrons anymore. So if you bring 3 Predators, that is 3 Predators. They're not in a squadron of 3. So you're already sort of looking that you're kind of limiting in there. Now, one of the things that is gone is an entire tank army. So back in the 1st and 2nd edition, you can bring tanks as commanders and then have tanks as troops and elites and special and all of that kind of stuff. You can't do that anymore. You're kind of limited to this detachment. So that's one of the things that you're kind of looking at. Your shock assault is basically your Terminators. Your heavy support is basically your Dreadnoughts. Now, you're going to ask me now, what is the little symbol with the spikes on it? Now, this is your primary slots. Now, these primary slots, when taken, allow you to have an upgrade, a sort of a benefit to that detachment. And they come in lots of forms. So basically, you have a number of prime slots. And each legion as well will also have their own detachment, but I'll talk a bit about that in a second. Now, the prime slots basically give you an advantage. So you can choose one of these per prime slot. So a Master Sergeant is basically a sergeant in a unit, or a model in a unit, can basically be made a Master Sergeant. He gains +1 attack, +1 weapon skill, and +1 leadership, and gains the champion subtype category, okay? Which means he allows him to fight in duels and stuff like that. Now, one of the little caveats for this is if he already has the champion keyword, then he'll gain an additional +1 leadership, which is kind of cool. You also have combat veterans, which gives them +1 leadership, intellect, cool, and willpower. Okay, so that's kind of for a unit. So you'll be able to buff one unit, and you'll notice that in some of the detachments, your little troop choice will also have that little spiky symbol as well. You also then get a Paragon of Battle, which gives them again +1 attack, weapon skill, and ballistic skill. And that's kind of, these are like listed on the there's a box in the rulebook that will list what these are. Now, certain things can have them. So your Master Sergeant and your combat veterans are basically on a unit. Your Paragon of Battle is on a command slot. Okay, so a Paragon Battle, if it's a prime slot on a command slot, that'll be able to use Paragon of Battle. The special assignment, basically the command slot basically turns into a high command, and it allows you to then get additional benefits off the back of that. The logistical benefits is another prime slot variant, and basically this allows you to pick one unit type per logistical benefit, not high command or Paragon of War or anything like that, and basically you're able to add that into the detachment. So if you want to bring a Dreadnought but don't want to use an auxiliary detachment for a heavy support, you're able to bring in that Dreadnought into the detachment through that benefit. And then you get Legion specific stuff as well, so bear that in mind. Now, that's basically the prime. So when you kind of look at it, it's actually not as confusing as it initially is. And I think one of the main issues is kind of how they present it in the book. You get a lot of text, you get a box showing it, you get another box talking about prime detachments, and then you get a picture of all of the detachments and all of the little nuances. So basically, you like your Warlord detachment, which is basically where the Primarchs go into. They have slots. Your heavy support slots, your Lords of War have 2 slots. Basically 2. You can bring 2 Lords of War. But again, you're limited to how many points you can take because of the 25%. There is a lot there, and there's a lot in it to sort of break down, but you can essentially build your army, and it's just a matter of you build your slots, take your high command. You don't have to fill them in if you don't want to. No, you don't have to take a Praetor if you don't want to. Whereas before, in 2nd and 1st edition, you were kind of forced to take a Praetor because of the rights of war. rule, which basically allowed you to take a rights of war rule, which allowed you to change it and how your army, and it was like the Paragon of War or something like that, Legion Commander rule, and that basically unlocked the rights of war. This, you don't have rights of war anymore to look at, and there's no compulsories to look at, so you don't really need to worry about that. Now, there is a lot there. So the best thing to do is kind of sort of just build your primary detachment and then add your stuff onto it. Now, remember, High Command gives you an auxiliary and an apex. Now, the legions themselves, your actual legion that you pick on, will probably have detachments as well. So in your legion rules, it will show you your detachment. They basically function exactly the same way as apex and auxiliary detachments do. So if it's an apex detachment, it's unlocked exactly the same way as an apex detachment normally is, and it will have whatever. Now, each legion has different detachments, and they're meant to be themed in and around how that legion fights. So, you know, whichever legion you pick, that's the best one to look into. When I start doing the deep dives into each of the legions, we'll be looking at the detachments and what they give, as well as their special rules and war gear options and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, but basically that is how to create an army. It's once you get into it and read it properly and you understand where because when it initially sort of come out, it was kind of confusing. I'm not going to lie. I read the section of the book like 3 or 4 times back to back and was like, okay, I kind of get how this is working now. If I've got my primary detachment, I take this guy as my high command, that's my praetor. I take a consul, and that consul unlocks these elements, and these elements will then allow me to do A, B, and C. So if I want to bring Terminators, I take a consul, I then bring 2 units of Terminators. If I want to bring tanks, I bring a consul or a centurion, and then I bring up to 4 tanks for that detachment. If I want to bring other things like your armored fist, I can bring my more transports or Spartans and things like that. If I want to bring my tactical support squads, I bring a centurion, and then I bring an auxiliary detachment of tactical support, and I bring 2 tactical supports or 2 rapier teams. So there's all of that. That's how it sort of builds in. So you're also going to be looking at your centurions. Are going to be kind of important now, which is kind of what they should be. Centurions should be a lot important in your legions, because the centurions are basically your backbone of your legion. Like, they are your line officers. You know, they're your paragons, your high command. They're your praetors, your lord commanders, your eidolons, your Abaddons, your Ralderons, your big name characters, the sort of legion command. But the backbone of your legion and your fighting men in your company, the fighting company that you're playing, that's your centurions. Just like how Roman legions had 10 centurions, all having 100 guys each. This is basically how the legions work, and it's really kind of thematic and kind of cool, and I like it. It is a bit of a tax, but it allows you to have your options, so you can bring those different types in, and then you've got your different paragons. Now, there are going to be certain rules as well on these centurions that are going to give you additional options. So one of the things to look out to is look out for Officer of the Line 2. Okay? An Officer of the Line 2 allows you 2 auxiliary detachments rather than just the 1. So if you have if you bring a centurion or a consul with the Officer of the Line 2, that's going to also unlock 2 detachments just off that guy. So that guy is really worth his points, because he's giving you more options and opening up the army more. So there's some really nice examples in the book. They've got a nice Imperial Fist army where it kind of sort of explains what's in it and how it's built, and then there's another one kind of done it slightly different, and then there's another one again. So there is some really good examples, which is kind of cool, and you can kind of see the models and work out what they all are, which is good. But all in all, hopefully you find that helpful. I found it pretty helpful, like, working on this video, to sort of research it, to work everything out, which was kind of cool. So hopefully you'll find that video helpful, and you will join me in my journey into 3rd edition. I'm going to be talking a lot more about Horus Heresy come the new year, once I start looking at the what I'm going to be doing for my Legion. There'll be an army project log for my Legion as I work on it, just like I've got for my World Eaters and my Grand Cathay, and my other factions my armies that I'm working on. There'll also be deep dives per of the Legions, as well as the other factions of the game. I also want to do some painting videos for the different Legions. Now, if you want to see the painting content, let me know in the comments below of what type of painting videos you want to see. Do you want to see it like they are currently? And this is not a dig at other content creators, but they all seem to be the same. And it seems to be airbrushing, airbrush highlight, oil wash, gloss varnish, decals, oils, weathering, done. Or do you want to see them done as more of a heavy metal style sort of paint job? Let me know in the comments what you want the Legions to be done, and then I've got a load of spare Marines, and I will slowly start working through the Legions, the different colour schemes for the Legions, and doing that, because I've got a lot of ideas on how to paint a lot of the different Legions, and hopefully that you'll find that beneficial. And I want to build up a good library next year of Horus Heresy content, from deep dives and painting as well. So let me know how you want the painting. If you want it more like the other content creators, or you want it more like the heavy metal style type stuff. I can do both. I don't mind doing both. I mean, hey, that's what, 36 videos all on the different types of videos, doing 2 per one, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I can do them with an airbrush or without an airbrush, completely up to you. But while you're there, obviously hit the subscribe button, help me get to that 5,000 bracket, and as soon as I do hit that 5,000, I will be doing a video and presenting a prize to one of my subscribers as a thank you for getting me to that big thing. And I will be doing a video very shortly on the 5,000 subscriber giveaway, which we are getting close. It's about just over 250 subscribers off, so I think we're getting really close to that. So really excited. So let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know what other content you want to do. You want me to do on the Heresy. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the Heresy, so I want to be doing a lot more Horus Heresy. And I'm really actually looking forward to playing and collecting. It's going to be super cool. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really excited. I do have Ashes of the Imperium coming this weekend, the book. Really can't wait to get into that, and I'm really looking forward to reading the next period of history for 40k after the Horus Heresy, because the Horus Heresy series is amazing. If you haven't yet read it, definitely read the first 5 books. I'm going to be doing a video on the books I suggest, or I would recommend you read if you are new to the Horus Heresy as a reader. Which books to read, and that'll take you into the Siege of Terror. But that's the video, everybody. Like I said, please like, share, and all that good stuff. But most importantly, hit that subscribe button. You can check out my members and Patreon areas if you want to help me and support me in other ways. It's literally the price of a brew. It's not even that. It's 99p, and you can get me a brew. But anyway, catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye for now.